This weekend marks the one-year anniversary since Breonna Taylor was murdered. Several events will be held this weekend to honor Breonna Taylor, including a food drive geared towards families in need and those impacted by gun violence in West Louisville. Louisville nonprofit Game Changers and New York-based Until Freedom are behind a food drive, which will distribute more than 1,000 bags of fresh produce and groceries to people in need. There's a lot of need. It's not just about police violence. It's also about gun violence. It's also about a lack of food, said Linda Saussure, the founder of Until Freedom. She says, aside from protesting and demanding accountability in Taylor's death, this is a way to address inequalities on Sunday. These families will be passing out the food outside of the Community Connections building in the Portland area. This is the food that was donated by hip-hop mogul JayZ's company, Roc Nation. I'm really happy to hear this because a lot of the times before 2020, there were a lot of things that would happen in the Black community. Someone would die, and it would just, not to say that their name was in vain, but we would forget about it and we were on to the next story. So I'm really happy that Breonna Taylor, not happy because that doesn't sound good, but I'm happy that we're using her name while we're still trying to convict the killers of Breonna Taylor. We're using her name in a great way to provide for some families in need as well. So I'm happy that that's happening.
That's true.
Agreed.
All right. Well, Eddie Murphy will be inducted into the NAACP Image Awards Hall of Fame this month. The NAACP announced Thursday that Murphy will be inducted during the March 27th ceremony, which will air on CBS. Now, the actor-comedian will be presented the award by his longtime friend and Coming to America co-star Arsenio Hall. The Hall of Fame induction is bestowed on an individual who is viewed as a pioneer in their respective field and whose influence shaped the profession for generations to come. Derrick Johnson, the president and CEO of the NAACP, stated, "To this day, Eddie Murphy's work continues to bring joy and laughter to individuals around the world, and he's an amazing example of Black excellence, creativity, and artistry," said Derrick Johnson, the president and CEO of the NAACP. Previous inductees include Oprah Winfrey, Stevie Wonder, Spike Lee, Ray Charles, and Sidney Poitier. Now, the most recent honorees to be inducted were Cheryl Boone Isaacs and Paris Barclay in 2014. Quick story I heard Arsenio Hall tell on a podcast about Eddie Murphy, because there was always Richard Pryor's the GOAT. No, Eddie Murphy's the GOAT. Well, imagine being Eddie Murphy, going to see Richard Pryor at the Comedy Club. Richard Pryor gets this note saying that Eddie's in the crowd. He said, "Hey, there's this guy named Eddie Murphy that claims is going to be the next Richard Pryor. I'm not ready to give up my title yet, but let's call him on stage." Called Eddie on the spot. Richard sat on the side of the stage, watched the performance. It was amazing. They walked off stage together, and of course, they brought us Harlem Nights in 1989. So, look, respect to both of them for sure.
And was it delirious or raw where Eddie told the story of how Richard Pryor told him to ignore Bill Cosby's advice? That's one of my favorite Eddie.
It was delirious.
It was delirious.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy is my favorite comedian. He has grown with the times.
Yes, he has.
And people, I like Dave Chappelle, love Dave Chappelle, but I feel like people forget that Eddie is so effortlessly funny because he hasn't been, he hasn't been doing so much work lately.
Yeah.
But he's the
done
GOAT.
enough.
All right, the Senate has confirmed Michael Reagan to lead the Environmental Protection Agency. This puts the North Carolina regulator in charge of restoring the climate and water pollution regulations that the Trump administration had weakened. Reagan spent 4 years as secretary of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. His record of fixing environmental problems faced by low-income residents and communities of color drew national attention. The role also propelled him to the cabinet-level position above more prominent state regulators. Reagan was confirmed by a 66-34 vote, with 16 Republicans joining all 50 Democrats in support of him. He'll be the first Black man to run the EPA and only the second Black person to do so after Obama's first-term administrator, Lisa Jackson. And listen, he says he's going to act aggressively to fight climate change.
Love that. And he got 16 Republicans to vote for him. That's a win. Take that one.
That is a big win.
That's hard to come by.
It's serious, especially in this day and age. Yeah. Members of the Connecticut General Assembly's Black and Puerto Rican caucus on Wednesday hailed the recent passage of legislation making it illegal to discriminate against someone because of their hairstyle as the first of numerous bills addressing racial inequities they hope will be enacted this year. Representative Robin Porter of New Haven, co-chair of the Labor and Public Employees Committee, said the legislation dubbed the Crown Act is just the beginning of the group's efforts this session. "I feel like this is our moment. This is our season, and we are finally going to get everything that we deserve," she said during a ceremonial bill signing on the state capitol steps. And the Crowning Act is just the beginning, my people. The name Crown Act stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Proponents said Connecticut is the 8th state to enact legislation making it illegal to discriminate based on a person's hair texture or hairstyle in employment, public accommodations, housing, credit practices, union membership, and state agency practices. All I got to say is amen, all right? I couldn't imagine being in a situation where I was discriminated just based on wearing a protective style, you know what I'm saying? Or if I was rocking my afro, somebody saying, you know, the way my hair naturally grows, somebody saying that looks unprofessional, you're going to have to go home until you can, you know, work that out. That I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine.